there was some point where you went from leaving the faith to talking about you leaving the faith on Oprah. And so like, how did you get from just another person that left it to, wow, you're on national television telling everybody about this?
So that Oprah show that you saw in 1984 was not national TV. That was Oprah's show.
Oh, really?
It was a few months before she went national. She had a show in Chicago called AM Chicago. She was kind of known, but she wasn't like the huge megastar at the time. I think I might have heard her name, but I had left the ministry in my early 30s after 4 or 5 years of reevaluating. And I started reading things. And back then in 83, if you want to read something, there was no internet. You had to go to the library or go buy a book. And I saw somebody was advertising like agnostic humanists catalog in one of the science magazines. It might have been Discover or Scientific American. And I thought, oh, that's cool. So there are other people like me. I thought I was the only one. When I became an atheist, I kind of thought,
sure.
You know, there were no atheists on TV. I wasn't jumping on a bandwagon. It was just me and my thoughts. So I ordered some books from this company. And one of the books I ordered was called Woe to the Women, The Bible Tells Me So, about the Bible's treatment of women, written by a woman named Annie Laurie Gaylor. And in fact, Annie Laurie's downstairs right now. We got married later, actually.
Yeah.
I read the book and I thought, wow, this is great. Wow, somebody's actually criticizing the Bible and how modern law is based on these outdated patriarchal, sexist things in the Bible. So I wrote her a one-page letter and I said, that was a wonderful book. And by the way, I used to be a preacher and now I'm not. And she didn't answer me. But her mom, she and her mom had started the Freedom from Religion Foundation in the 70s. Her mom got the letter and she said, well, this guy's got a story. This guy's got a good story. Maybe he could write for our newspaper. And so she wrote me back and I said, yeah, I'll write you an article so I call it Losing Faith in Faith. And then they got a call from Oprah's producers of her show in Chicago saying, we want to do a show on atheism, because Anne and Annie Laurie, its mother-daughter, they had been on Oprah's show in Baltimore the first time Oprah had ever solo hosted a show. Before that, the male host was not letting her do much. The male host was letting her, you know, roll the bin for the drawing kind of stuff.
Okay.
So here was her chance to actually host her own show, Women with Women. And when Oprah auditioned for the Chicago show, she used that tape. She used the tape of Anne and Annie Laurie to show I can do this. So she got hired in Chicago, and Oprah always kind of thanked. She had a lot to owe to Anne and Annie Laurie. So she invited them onto the Chicago show a few years later. And the producers asked Anne and Annie Laurie, do you know anybody with a good story who's an atheist now, who used to be a believer? And Anne said, well, yeah, I just got this letter from this guy in California. He used to be a preacher. So that's how that happened.
Wow.
And I had never talked about this before publicly. I just thought that was it. You know, I just thought, okay, I'm not a preacher anymore. I sent out my letter and I thought,
yeah,
I got to find a job now.
Right. And like the crazy thing is, you know, we would play the clip. I'm not going to play it because like Oprah of all people would content ideas like real fast. But like if you watch that clip, it's on YouTube. You can find it. Like people are very uncomfortable with the both of you. They do not like you being there. And it's even on Oprah's face, I think it's very visible. Now, to her credit, I think she did a really great job of asking you guys some great questions. From a hosting perspective, I think, you know, that was pretty well done. But you could tell the tone in the room was not friendly towards you guys. Like,
yeah, but it was great TV. The producers planned it. They invited these Bible thumpers and you know, they wanted the differential, and they got it. The show was that. And for me, boy, what an experience. Not only was this the first time that I was publicly saying this stuff, I had never put the words together. And here I was on live TV thinking, how do I say this? That was also the first time I had ever spoken before a hostile audience. because when you're a pastor, you're always speaking before the people who come.
The people who already agree with what you have to say. Yeah.
And so they're always saying amen, and isn't this wonderful? The body of Christ. And so this is the first time I was speaking where the audience did not like what I was saying, and I loved it. I thought, wow, finally I can say something that gets the audience to think or react, or this is a lot better than church. And so I never stopped since. I just got hooked on speaking up and speaking out.
Yeah, super, super cool. I just want to remind folks real quick that this is a call-in show. We're doing this live here on Truth Wanted. So you can call that number on the screen if you want to talk to me and Dan Barker, Mr. Barker. If we'll, again, keeping up with the name scheme here. And we'll get to your calls in just a sec. And I'm going to keep talking to Mr. Barker here because I want to know, okay, so, you did this TV spot. And then what? Because now you went, again, timeline is living your whole life as a Christian. Suddenly, in less than a year, you're getting into all this other stuff. You're becoming more of a speaker for the other side, so to speak. Where does it go from there? What happens after that?
So I needed a job,
Mm-hmm.
so I took a class in computer programming. It was really basic. In fact, it was basic. It was the basic language. And before the class was over, I landed a job with a company that was programming. And that was kind of cool. This was 1983 to 84. And they put that contract on hold for 6 months, but they kept us on payroll. So I spent 6 months getting paid to read manuals. It was really a blast. We were programming in assembly language with multitasking, real-time industry stuff, not business. Mm. And then I volunteered to install some systems in the Midwest. I moved out from California, and the Freedom from Religion Foundation is in the Midwest. It's in Madison, Wisconsin, which is where I am now. That's how I got here. And so during weekends, I was able to come to Madison to do some volunteer work for Freedom from Religion Foundation because I had met Ann and Annie Laurie on that show, and it was we were very compatible. That was really cool. And in 1987, then, they were big enough and had enough money to hire me then on full time. So we had 3 full-time staff in 1987. Wow. So that's kind of a short story. I was able to set up their very first database for the foundation with those simple computers back then.
Yeah, and so for those who don't know, what is the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and what do you guys do?
So I kind of like to think everybody would know that, but
I think you're probably like most people who watch this show probably do, but there's always somebody out there. I want to capture everybody.
Sure, okay. Yeah. So we're in the news a lot, and we're before the courts a lot. We have almost 33,000 members now nationwide, and we do 2 things. We work to keep state and church separate, which is legal work. We have 10 full-time attorneys, plus some additional legal staff. We file lawsuits. We write letters of complaint. We try to correct abuses of state-church separation. And it's more than that. We also have a strategic response team, and we're also doing like law journals and symposiums. The second thing we do is educate the public about the views of non-theists, atheists, agnostics, secular humanists. We don't care what we call ourselves. We're not a specifically exclusively atheist group. About 20% of our members would prefer the word agnostic, and we don't care. One of our jokes is we don't care what we call ourselves. We all disbelieve in the same God. So
yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So, and that way we wanted a group, Ann and Annie Laurie wanted a group that someone like Thomas Jefferson could join, or Thomas Paine, who were not atheists, but they were the free thinkers. And that's why we like the word free thought and free thinker. People who reject orthodoxy, who reject faith, they reject tradition, they reject scripture, and rely only on reason with your opinions about religion. So we have a radio show, we have a TV show, we have a newspaper, we publish books, we do public events, we do debates. I've done 137 public moderated debates now since 1985.
Yeah, it's quite a count. And I think a lot of people know you from seeing those debates and some other talks that you've given for various occasions, of course, and some of the books that you've written as well. Godless, of course, was the one I mentioned earlier, was kind of a sort of a biography of your life and how you got to do it now. And you've written a ton of other stuff too. One thing I wanted to say about the Freedom from Religion Foundation that I really like is at the heart of it, you're just making sure people are following the law. Like, to me, that's like, it's you're not trolling people. You're not like doing anything egregious or anything. You're not getting in people's faces. You're just making sure, like, hey, you guys are violating this church and state thing, and you guys are in a town of 2,000 somewhere in Georgia or Alabama, where you probably don't have, the legal resources there. Hey, here's how we can help. Here's something we could do. Like, we can look into it. And I really like that you're helping people. Like I would have needed help when I lived in Waco, probably, if I ever saw something like that happen. Right.
Well, we get complaints from all over the country, all over the world, really. Mm-hmm. And now it's easy. Now there's a drop down on our webpage for make a legal complaint, and you can fill out the form, and our legal staff will get back to you. And there's, I don't know, 24 or 30 different categories of state church complaints. A lot of them are religion in the schools that are dealt with. And so sometimes the FAQs can tell you what you need to do. And if you can't solve it, then we can write a letter. And our legal staff spends a lot of time writing letters out to high school principals and county executives and postmasters and governors and you name it, sheriff's offices, to inform them that they are breaking the law. And about 20% of the time, they either agree with us or they change. About 20% of the time, we get a victory. We call them victories, sure, without going to court, which is really nice, because going to court is expensive and time consuming.
Sure.
And sometimes it's just informing them, here's the law and here's the legal precedent. And then so the school district will show this letter to their legal counsel and say, look, we didn't even know this. And once in a while, they'll send us a letter of thanks. We didn't know this was wrong. Thank you for bringing it to our attention. The other 80% of the time, we have to keep complaining, or sometimes we sue. We actually go to court to take lawsuits. So it really is a blast, and our legal staff loves it. And
I gotta ask, what's the ratio of, oh, thank you for showing me this, to, hey, screw off, get away from us? Like, what?
Well, it's mostly them fighting back. And sometimes they have no choice. Even if they wanted to agree with us, the local politics is such that they can't. And we've even heard from people who say, you know what? You're right, but I'll never get reelected in this town if I side with you. And so usually when we do win, they can save face by saying, I wanted that Jesus picture hanging on the high school wall. I didn't want to take it down, but our insurance company informed us that they would not cover us. It would be too expensive to fight this lawsuit. And so they can use the money as a face saving. So vote for me again. I'm still the strong Christian, but we're going to have to obey the law. Our school district is strapped for finances, and we don't want to get involved in this big costly lawsuit. And we don't care if they need that face saving, that's fine, as long as they do the right thing.
Well, that's, again, super awesome. I'm glad the Freedom from Religion organization exists. You guys have done a lot of great work. And again, most of the people here probably have either benefited from your services in some, I want to say, not personally, but I bet there are people watching this now who have benefited from the services you guys do and don't even realize it. Because like you said, a lot of these issues are settled out of court and people figure stuff out. And they learn from you, which is good.
Texas, of course. One of our attorneys has a sign in the office that says, "Do mess with Texas."
Yeah, I support that as a native Texan. I think that's the right thing to do. I imagine you guys get the letters you get from Texas are probably more. They got to be in top 5 of the states you get, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and surprisingly, Ohio is one of the top ones. Which I think Ohio actually is a southern state, even though it's up north, you know.
It's
But
it's Southern mentality, I'd
yeah,
say. I mean, I've only visited a couple times. I don't know, but
Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas. I mean, that's where, you know, the Bible Belt. That's where we
that's
get
your
a
bread
lot
and
of.
butter. It's your bread and butter right there.
But it's all over. It's all over the country. It's and you know what you said earlier. We don't have to go out and look for cases. We're not like
I'm sure
trolling the country to find somebody's breaking the law.
Yeah,
It comes to us. We hear from you.
yeah,
And then we can write a letter that's not us up in Wisconsin trying to tell you what to do down in Waco. We can say, hey, we got a complaint from somebody in Waco who's got a kid in the school. We're representing that local person complaining about a local issue, because they need to keep their head down sometimes in those towns. They don't want to be publicly identified. So
yeah. Waco in particular, I gotta say, definitely.